Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this first edition of Keeping an Eye on the Geopolitical Ball in 2023 with me, Jamie Shea, Senior Fellow at Friends of Europe. First and foremost, I wish all of you a belated but nonetheless sincere Happy New Year. I imagine that over the Christmas New Year break, like me, you all took advantage of the opportunity to disconnect from politics and international affairs, at least for a few weeks. And indeed, the news cycle traditionally at Christmas is not dominated by political news, but rather like this year, deaths of celebrities, Pope Benedict XVI or Vivienne Westwood or the Brazilian football star Pele, or the revelations of somebody like Prince Harry in his autobiography. But nonetheless, you could always count on at least one individual to play the Grinch at Christmas, and with a series of provocations to remind us that politics is never far away. And over the last couple of years, and again this Christmas, that Grinch role has been played by Kim Jong Un, the dictator leader of North Korea. He was on hand to launch 4 drones into South Korea, exposing the fact that the South Korean air defense is unable to spot North Korean drones and therefore is badly in need of upgrading. He carried out 4 short-range missile tests, bringing to over 70, and thereby a record number, the number of missile tests that North Korea, in violation of UN resolutions, carried out last year. He then went to his Workers' Party Congress and announced, I quote, escalation, an exponential escalation in North Korea's nuclear weapons development. He spoke about developing an intercontinental ballistic missile, fueled to be able to be fired at short notice and with multiple warheads, which could reach all parts of the United States. He spoke about developing hypersonic missiles, underwater missiles, a multiple launch rocket system as well, and launching once again, a military reconnaissance satellite. He also has been making noises in recent months about resuming nuclear testing, which North Korea has not done for the last 5 or 6 years. And also very worrying as part of this sort of ratcheting up of nuclear tensions was the fact that last autumn, the North Korean People's Assembly voted to change the country's nuclear doctrine to allow for preemptive nuclear strikes and to move away from a no first use policy. Experts believe that this ambitious program is nonetheless realistic and achievable, given the considerable resources that North Korea traditionally invests in its nuclear program, at the expense, of course, of dealing with social and economic problems like the COVID-19 pandemic. So why is Kim doing all of this now? Well, 3 possible reasons. One is he wants to get attention and move himself up the agenda, particularly as the Biden administration in the US has not given him the attention that Trump gave him with the 2 highly publicized US North Korean summits in Singapore and in Vietnam. Second reason is he probably wants to put pressure on the UN to recognize North Korea as a legitimate nuclear weapons state, which means that it could not be sanctioned purely by having nuclear weapons. In third place, Kim is probably reacting to the fact that Biden has been working more closely with South Korea and with Japan on a tripartite alliance in which both Japan and South Korea are investing much more in defense and modernizing their armed forces, and South Korea and the United States are engaging more closely in talks on the management of nuclear weapons, even though the US withdrew its tactical nuclear weapons from South Korea some years ago. But whatever the reason, we're now in a much more dangerous situation where the nuclear threshold on the Korean Peninsula has definitely been lowered. So what are we going to do about it? Well, in the first place, deterrence, of course, is vital. That's why what the US is doing with the South Koreans to increase South Korea's deterrent capability is important. But deterrence by itself is not sufficient, particularly with a very irrational and unpredictable personality like Kim. So we need a certain degree of diplomacy as well to persuade Kim to climb down from the nuclear escalation ladder. What does this mean? Well, I don't think there's any point going back to the Trump sort of all or nothing approach, which was tried during the two summits, a deal whereby North Korea would give up all of its nuclear weapons in exchange for the United States removing all of the sanctions. Basically, there's never been sufficient trust for that to be possible. The US would like to see the weapons dismantled first, and Pyongyang would like to see the sanctions removed first. Neither side is willing to trust the other to keep its part of the deal. So I think we need a more modest, step-by-step, but more realistic approach. What could this consist of? Well, first of all, an exchange of data on nuclear facilities. Every year, India and Pakistan, for instance, despite also having an adversarial relationship, manage to do this as a confidence-building measure. Secondly, a ban on flying drones over each other's territory. In third place, something like prior notification of military exercises on either side of the 38th parallel, the dividing line between the two Koreas, with the invitation to inspectors or observers with the ability to ask questions about exercises and have answers provided. Also, maybe an agreement on prevention of incidents at sea, given that in the past North Korean boats have rammed American warships, thereby leading to crisis situations. We could also look at what we could do to bring North Korea back into the Nuclear Proliferation Treaty. It won't be easy, particularly given the likely lack of cooperation of Russia and China at the moment, although those two nuclear powers also have an interest in not having North Korea threaten a nuclear war on the Korean peninsula. It means, of course, offering incentives to North Korea to do that kind of thing in a coordinated way. It won't be easy, but a roadmap for how we could possibly get there needs to nonetheless be developed. And in the meantime, finally, we could go back to the approach that Bill Clinton adopted in the mid-1990s with the framework agreement between the United States and North Korea, whereby Pyongyang agreed to freeze its nuclear programs in exchange for deliveries by the United States of coal and graphite-moderated reactors for peaceful nuclear energy in North Korea. This eventually collapsed because of the opposition of the US Congress, but we know in the case of Iran, as distasteful as it may be to negotiate with these states, when they do sign agreements like Iran with the Joint Comprehensive Program of Action, they do at least keep to those agreements and you win time for further diplomacy. So I know there's going to be obviously criticism of negotiating with North Korea. It's rewarding bad behavior. North Korea doesn't keep its promises. It's giving into blackmail. These are legitimate arguments, but you make peace, of course, with your adversaries, not with your friends. And as we've spent so much time and energy persuading Russia not to use nuclear weapons in Ukraine for fear of the terrible precedent this would create, I think we have a similar interest in making sure that we don't see any kind of use of nuclear weapons, breaking the taboo since Hiroshima of 1945 on the Korean Peninsula either. Thank you for watching, for listening today. Look forward to engaging with you next week. Bye for now.